am so excited to see all of you, and I am so glad you're here. My name's Dr. Jen Brown Sanders, and I'm the K-12 Accelerated Programs TOSA, and I recognize a few friendly faces in the crowd, some parents that were part of the Highly Capable Advisory Committee that took place this fall and winter. I'm really hoping that this is like the first annual HiCap Parent Night. I would really love to see us be able to have every year kind of have like a HiCap State of the Union and kind of have updates, because we have a lot of changes coming our way, and there'll be a lot of things that we're implementing over the next several years. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce the HiCap leadership team, and then when I say your name, please stand and wave, and you can all acknowledge them. So we have Christy Lindholm, who's the Executive Director for Elementary Ed. Darcy, I think, is out front still. I don't think she's in here. I introduced myself already. Karen Adams. Josh Reineel. And so now we're going to just play a fun little game, so it's not like to loosen it up a little bit. So I know you're like, oh, man. Okay. No, actually, this is a signature practice called a warm welcome, and it's an instructional practice that's used in classrooms throughout Vancouver Public Schools. And so I'm going to say a sentence or a phrase, and if that applies to you, you stand up and say, with enthusiasm, that's me. So here we go. I know it's going to be super fun. My child attends a school in VPS. Yay! All right, good job. All right, good job. Okay. I'm excited to learn more about highly capable services tonight. All right, fantastic. See, you guys catch on. We have a dog as a pet. We have a cat as a pet. We have something else other than a cat or a dog as a pet. Hey, that's me. I have chickens. Summer is my favorite season. Fall is my favorite season. That's me too. I love this hot weather. It's too hot for me. I can't take it. Okay, so that was fun. Yeah, stay on top of it. Okay. So really, all of these HiCap changes would have not been possible without the support of our superintendent, instructional leaders throughout the district, and the school board. So really just a big shout out to them so that we could implement and really make highly capable services the best that it possibly can be.
We also really want to give a lot of credit to and a lot of gratitude to our current HiCap teachers and our past HiCap teachers. They've contributed tremendously to the program and to a lot of kids and families' lives, and we want to make sure that their work is acknowledged and represented here. They've helped us a lot to think forward also about what we were doing well and what spots we were missing. So we want to definitely recognize that there have been trailblazers and people that have come before us. We want to make sure and honor their work. I also want to recognize that you probably have a million questions and you're wondering how this is all going to apply to you. What's it going to mean for your kid or your family? We really intend and believe that we will answer those questions tonight. So we're going to ask if you will bear with us and let us get through the presentation, because we think we will hit most of what you need to know. This QR code or the bit.ly you can access on your phone. It'll take you straight to a Google form that will allow you to ask as many questions as you have. So it's going to collect your email so we know how to get back to you. It'll ask for your name, and then it'll allow you to ask questions. Once you submit, it'll allow you to submit more and more, so you feel free to ask all the questions that you want. There's a couple of things that we're going to do with the questions. One, we're just curious what everybody's thinking about. We're also creating an FAQ that we will add to our webpage for Highly Capable so that other families can go in and look and maybe get their questions answered that way. We are recording tonight. We have an engineer up there. His name is Nick. He's recording us, so the slides that you'll see tonight and this is all recorded for you to reference or for other families to get to. So Afterwards, we intend to end by 7, so we have enough time. We have crumble cookies for you. We've got water. They won't let us bring anything in here, so we all have to meet in the hallway. But the 5 of us who've been working on all this will be out there to answer any questions that you have that we didn't get to answer here that are kind of for the group. So if you have individual or family questions, come find one of us, and we want to make sure that you leave here feeling like you got what you needed. Okay? All right. Our agenda, these are all the areas that we intend to cover. So again, we think we'll answer all your questions, but have at it. If we don't, make sure you send them to us. All righty.
So as a foundation and a beginning point of re-examining highly capable services in Vancouver Public Schools, we started with our equity lens. And the equity lens questions really help lead us to talk about what is working well for students, but what is not working well, who's it working for, who is maybe left out. And so this was really the foundation that started with the Highly Capable Advisory Committee, and we use these equity lens questions along with our belief statement to really talk about what needed to be put in place to make the service changes that we needed to make. So this belief statement is actually really important and kind of an anchor. It's not kind of, it is an anchor to what we have wanted to do. So I'll let you take a minute just to read that. So you're going to see many of the things that we're talking about tonight come back to this belief statement, especially when we talk about ability and achievement data being drivers for services. Also about making sure that every teacher is supported to be able to help their students become expert learners. And that we really are committed to a continuum of services and making sure that services match the student need.
Good evening. I would like to help everyone understand the purpose and the need for highly capable services. So we're going to take a look at sort of the educational model and all the students that we serve. So initially, we have a system called MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, and that enables us to be able to support students where they are. So look at this graphic. This represents our core instruction for all students, and this is Tier 1. This represents 80% of our students. So most students who are getting their core instruction every day in their classroom, this is sufficient for them. They're thriving and doing great. For some students, they need additional support to achieve. So those would be Tier 2 on the ends of this continuum. So Tier 2 on this end is where students need some supports to achieve, and it will be different kinds of interventions. It might be differentiation in the classroom. They might be pulled out for different types of groups. It might be our LAP or Learning Assistance Program. Perhaps they need social emotional support, or perhaps they're multilingual students. On this end, for Tier 2, we have students kind of on the opposite end of the continuum, and these students are performing well and doing well all the time. They're getting their work done. They need something a little extra, a little additional. And these students are often high achieving. So we know that the core is working for them. They're achieving well. They're able to move forward in work and getting good scores, but maybe they still need a little bit of an additional challenge. Oh, and I forgot to say, Tier 2 is about 15% of our students. Then we have Tier 3. Tier 3 applies to about 5% of our students. So on one end, we have students that they still really aren't achieving with support, and we need to take another look and see how else we can support them in the district. And so that often involves bringing in a team, working with a special ed team, and then sometimes resulting in an IEP or individualized education plan. On this end, This is where our truly highly capable, almost gifted students would live, and this is where we would need our intensive high cap services. So you are going to have some students that are highly capable in Tier 2, but there are also going to be a portion of them that are in Tier 3 that in the classroom, they're still not getting enough of what they need. Their needs aren't being met in the regular gen ed classroom, even with extensions. We're seeing that their data shows, from the variety of data sources we'll be talking about tonight, that they need something else. And so that is where, which you'll learn more about later, we would be looking at our intensive, highly capable support class.
All right. So one of the distinctions that we were looking at when we were sort of examining the current VPS highly capable services and the changes that we were going to implement was this distinction between high achieving versus highly capable. So a high achieving student, and the high achieving student is, some might have the perception that that is a gifted student, but there is a distinction, and it's an important one. High achieving students, they remember the answers. They're attentive, they pay attention in class. They perform consistently at the top of the group. They complete all their, or most or all of their assignments on time, and they have an intrinsic motivation to learn. They are pleased with their own learning. They're intellectually curious. They get high grades, and they also enjoy the company of peers their own age. And they enjoy school. They like it. They like going to school. Highly capable students look a little different. Highly capable students often ask questions of their peers and adults that maybe they're surprising. You can go, oh. They're selectively mentally engaged. That means that maybe they're paying attention sometimes. Sometimes their attention is focused elsewhere and not at the task at hand. They are beyond the group. They are an outlier. That's both with maybe assessments, but also participation. Maybe they are just doing their own thing. They initiate projects and extensions that are often of their own design. They don't want to do what the class is doing. They want to do the thing that they are really into right now. They're often self-critical. They're often, if I can't do this the way I see it exactly in my mind, then it's not worth doing. And I won't do it. And they may not be motivated by grades. They may not be motivated by scores. Those things might not interest them. And prefers the company of intellectual peers, i.e. adults. In the classrooms that I used to teach in, that was mostly this population, and I would be out on duty at school, and I would have a small child right here, the entire recess, talking to me about the thing that they really wanted to talk about that they were into that day or that week. They didn't want to go play with their friends or the other kids. They wanted to talk to an adult because that's where they were operating at. And they also often really enjoy self-directed learning. You can give them a project, and you can give them an outcome that you want, and you can just let them do it. And they will often figure it out.
We noticed some of you are taking screenshots. Go ahead and feel free to take screenshots if you want. Also, this will be posted to the website tomorrow. So if you didn't capture something, don't worry. You'll be able to review this slide deck along with the recorded meeting on the website. So now we're going to talk about identification, which is actually really exciting because identification is the start of the process, right? Finding our highly capable students is the beginning. Just this past spring, the Washington State Legislature passed a really awesome law, whoop, whoop, right, okay, requiring universal screening at 2 different grades, an early grade and a late grade. What universal screening is it means all students of a grade level are given an ability test that tests how a child thinks. And the universal screening is like a way to scoop or capture students to see if they're highly capable. In the past, in Vancouver Public Schools, we've used achievement data. So that's how well is the student learning. that is about their academic progress. The achievement data we've used has been somewhat problematic because it's a language-based test, and if that's not in their native language, they're at a disadvantage. Also, achievement does not relate to ability. Somebody can be thinking at a deeper level and not be achieving in school, especially if the content's not engaging to them or they don't see a reason or a purpose for it. So to have universal screening where everybody can be looked at, not just here or there, which has been also a prior practice in VPS, was we looked at achievement data and then we used the COGAT, which was not a very responsive ability test either. So to kind of scrap all of that and build up from the ground up is really awesome, exciting. So next year, in grades 2 through 5, we will do universal screening. We will start in the fall with 5th grade. That's super intentional so that we can collect that data and we can make sure that they're correctly forecasted for a class appropriate for middle school. We'll be doing single subject identification, so that's also an improvement because rather than right now as it is, if they are labeled highly capable and they go to high or middle school, they're automatically put into advanced courses that might not necessarily fit their need. So single subject identification means if they really show a need in a certain area, they can be forecasted into a class that matches their need rather than just lumping them all together on, oh, you're high cap, so you get all the advanced courses. Well, by middle school, their interests and other things will make that so that they might need advanced courses in all subjects, but they also might need just one subject area that's advanced. So we start in 5th grade with the fall so that we can make sure that they are appropriately forecasted for 6th grade. In the spring, it will be later spring for 2nd grade because we want to give them as much time to learn and grow that we will capture, that will universally screen in 2nd grade. And then those students will then also be looked at for what service will best meet their needs. After we screen and apply some parameters to the ability test that we're going to be using, which is called the Naglieri. It's a nonverbal ability test. It's we did a small pilot of it this spring with our dual language students at 2nd and 5th grade, and it was really very fascinating to watch because the test teaches the kids how to take the test, and then they work through 3 different sections: verbal, nonverbal, and quantitative, which is symbols for math. So when we screen our 2nd graders, then we'll be able to make sure that we're aligning them to appropriate continuum of services. What is this student's need, and what would be the best placement for them? Should they receive services in their neighborhood school, or would it be better for them to receive the intensive high cap support service that will be offered at Truman Elementary? Referrals, family and teachers can refer a student. If you're worried that they weren't scooped or caught, you can always refer. We left the referral window open later this year because everything has been delayed with all these changes. So you have 2 more weeks. If you're worried that your student wasn't referred, you can still refer them. A lot of you are here because you got a letter in the mail saying that your student was referred. But if you have somebody that you're worried about, you can still submit a referral. And then once we collect the universal screening data from the Naglieri, we will be adding other data points too. That's really great. So we'll be using panorama data, which is like social emotional data, to help us understand, does this student have a little bit more intensive need, like more instruction in the social emotional area that would be better fit in like the intensive high cap support class. And then we'll be using ability, panorama data, and then achievement data. The Multidisciplinary Selection Committee is a group of people that comes together once screening is complete and reviews each student's data or their learning information on a case-by-case basis. So it's a blind review. We have data sheets that we don't have names, we have student numbers, and we review the data and we talk about what does this data show us, what's the student need, and then we make a recommendation based off of that. So the multidisciplinary selection committee consists of administrator from the district, a school psychologist, a special education teacher, somebody that comes from the equity department, somebody that comes from the multilingual department, and other leadership members from our highly capable services office. So we try to think about the whole child and all the different aspects that a child might come to us, so that we really can be thinking, again, through that equity lens. What is the data showing us? What does this student need? Are we being equitable in our approach about applying services to need? Letters this year are late because everything's delayed. You can expect to receive your letter by June 9th. And there will be an option to appeal. That link, I checked it today. Once you get your letter, if you disagree with the selection committee's determination, you may opt to appeal, and the appeal process is laid out on the website. Okay, so we talked a lot about 2nd and 5th grade. Now I want to talk about K-1. A lot of times, parents are really eager to have their student identified. I have 4-year-old twins at home, and a boy-girl twin, and my girl twin, Allie, at 18 months, she had more than 1,000 words. And she would say, I'd say, Allie, I love you. And she'd say, I love Daddy more. He's my person. At 18 months, right? And this kid, like, I really feel like she's on the high cap track. But what would be really important is to let her have time to develop and grow before slapping a label of highly capable on her. Because children grow at such different rates with such different varying abilities that we really want to be equitable. We want to make sure that we let all students have time to develop their unique talents. And this is a research-based approach about only informally identifying K and 1. So what that means is through formative assessments that a teacher does in the classroom, putting students on like a monitoring list to say, okay, we see this student is working with high achievement, which we don't necessarily know about ability. We wouldn't know about ability till 2nd grade with universal screening. So we're going to let them develop at their own rate and catch them to formally identify them at 2nd grade. A practice that we've had that's been problematic in the past is early identifying in K and 1, and then because they grew really fast in the early grades, and then they kind of maybe plateau, their peers develop, and by the time that they're up in the upper elementary school grades, they're not achieving at that high of level. It was just because the growth rates changed. And so we want to be really careful, use better data, and make sure that if we're placing a label of highly capable, it's because that student really is, not because of their different growth rate. So I talked about all those points.
Okay, this is something that we've been working on all year. And in the past, for highly capable services, it's been kind of a binary choice. If you are the parent or you're the family of a highly capable student, you can opt for services in the general education classroom, or you can go to self-contained. And we kind of determined that wasn't really meeting a broad spectrum of need. Especially as we're using different points of data to identify students. We're using different methods to capture previously unidentified students. So this is a graphic. Thank you, Karen, by the way. We went through a lot of iterations of this, and she finally came up with one that made sense to everybody. So hopefully, I really like it, so thank you. So what we have here is this continuum of services. And if you look down here at the bottom, we're at least intensive, right? And it goes all the way to most intensive. And for least intensive, you see it aligns right up here with the gen ed classroom. And so where this starts, at least intensive, is UDL and Universal Design for Learning. And it is coming. It is a big rollout. Teachers know, buildings know, and there is going to be a lot of professional development around this in August. And this is kind of a structure for the classroom. I personally really believe in it because you're teaching to the edges, you're teaching to the outliers, and you're capturing everybody in the middle. And it's a system that allows teachers a lot of flexibility to differentiate for groups or individuals of students. And then as we move kind of down this spectrum here, we get to cluster grouping. That's something that happens on a building level. We are piloting next year with some elementary schools the cluster model. We took a survey, and we have buildings that have interest and enthusiasm, and it is, when done with intention and done well with a lot of thought behind it, which these schools, because they're excited about doing it, that is already happening. It's a really great way at the building level to flexibly group students and get them the differentiation that they need. It's not tracking. It's not a railroad track. We're not putting them in this cluster and they're going to stay there for the rest of their elementary or secondary school career. That is not what this is. And the schools that we're working with on this for next year are really excited. And then you have small group differentiation. That might be a walk-to model. That might be a pull-out of a small group. It might be what I need time. But there's movement within the building for students and small groups that are facilitated by someone other than the classroom teacher. Then we have subject acceleration or virtual enrichment for after school. One thing I do want to point out is that this is a big lift. This is a lot. So it's coming in waves. It's not all going to happen next year because it's just not possible. There aren't enough warm bodies to make it happen. So we kind of have to start with the cluster model. And then elements of this already exist. It's more just gathering them under this continuum of services umbrella and coordinating them at the district level. Curriculum compacting, subject acceleration, and virtual enrichment are options that we are going to fully explore next year in terms of how those are going to be implemented. So you might see this over here, this big heavy black line, and this is the intensive high-cap support classroom. This is the most intensive level of service for highly capable identified students in VPS. And there are some pretty rigorous criteria to define this level of need. It will be a multi-age classroom, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It will have a social emotional learning focus. The students that this classroom will serve typically might have challenges with emotional regulation, impulse control, executive functioning. They might be operating intellectually at a level that they're not getting their needs met in their neighborhood classroom. With that kind of ability, there's often some challenges in this area. We're predicting to see, I don't want to skip down. I don't want to skip down yet, sorry. We're going to implement down the road individual learning plans for these students in these classrooms. That will outline to the teacher what are their needs, what are their kind of headwinds, and what are we doing as a district, and what are we doing as teachers of these students. What services are we providing them? What differentiation are we providing them? How are we meeting this unique set of needs? Students that will be in this classroom will be assessed at the 98th to 99th percentile of achievement and ability. That's where the Naglieri comes in. Right now, the assessments that we use are achievement-based, iReady, SBAC, et cetera. Those are achievement-based assessments. Naglieri is ability, so we're using both those data points. Twice exceptional. Having worked with this population pretty extensively, 99th percentile. They were at times multi-age classrooms. There's a big overlap of students that were gifted and also on an IEP for behavior. Well, I'm not talking about speech therapy. I'm not talking about OT. I mean, I did have students like that, but we're talking about behavior. And they are coming into a situation where they are on an IEP and their needs are not being met. They could be communication issues. They could be ASD. They could be ADHD. And it's something that's preventing them from accessing learning in a traditional way, right? So there's going to be a lot of students in these classrooms on IEPs. They're twice exceptional. There will be curriculum compacting. So the teachers in these classrooms will be able to move through content very quickly. And I can speak from experience. Also, subject acceleration. One of the big features of these classrooms is going to be constant assessment, because you're going to need to know what do these students already know, because they already know a lot, right? They're operating at this level, but where are the holes? Where are the places maybe that they've skipped over that we need to focus on for the third graders, for the fourth graders, and the fifth graders? So once you identify where those kind of holes are that you need to backfill, you can move really quickly through subjects and curriculum. Okay, so this is what this intensive high-cap support multi-age classroom is going to look like. Right now, the district is accepting applications for teachers for these classrooms, and it's going to be a really rigorous process. It's going to require a very specialized set of skills and a pretty specialized mindset around teaching. We are, as a district, exploring options to incentivize obtaining a highly capable endorsement. Right now in this district, we have 3 teachers with a highly capable endorsement. It's expensive. It costs $7,500 to get one. So that's not surprising. So we need to get more teachers, even teachers that aren't working in these classrooms. If you're working with highly capable students, a significant population of them, you should have one, or an option, or a pathway to get one. We're partnering with Whitworth University, and we're working right now on a potential VPS high cap endorsement cohort. So big group of teachers. And we'll teach them all at once, and we'll get them that endorsement all at once. I think it's super important. It's going to be grades 3, 4, and 5. That's going to be, when we're looking at these teachers applying for these jobs, I've done this. It's not easy. It's challenging, but it can be done if you understand the population. Because they're working at the 98th or 99th percentile, you can teach, you can kind of raise these younger kids up. They're not working at a third grade level. They're working at a fourth grade, fifth grade level. So it can be done, but it's challenging. The classrooms will be provided with extra social emotional curriculum. That's SEL texts and curriculum and programs that will help teachers implement this SEL that has to happen, that is paired with the teaching. It's not a separate lesson. It's not 30 minutes a day. It's happening in everything that's being taught. Morning meeting, literacy, math, because you're teaching these students, how do I deal with something that's hard? What if I can't do it? What if I don't want to do it? How do I navigate that? How do I navigate the big feelings that come with that in a constructive way? That support has to be provided, and it will be provided. And classrooms provided with a math curriculum ranging in content from grades 3 through 8. So they're not going to stop at 5th. They're not going to stop at 6th. This is going to meet a wide range of math ability.
I'm super excited about that math curriculum because my doctorate was really in math education. And so this is a curriculum that's put together by Jo Boaler. If you know anything about the education math community, she's really widely known and respected. And it's called Mindset Mathematics, and it uses visual prompts based in the real world that develop a lot of curiosity. And then the math concepts get applied to these visual prompts. And so it's really awesome. Another thing I wanted to say before I jumped into this is we learned from the Highly Advisory Committee that the parents were really concerned about teachers learning about differentiation and learning about highly capable students and their needs. And so one of the huge things that we're doing this year will be 3 required staff meetings for teachers throughout the year, 1 per trimester at the elementary grades. And they'll be learning specific information about highly capable students, about how to differentiate, about the highly capable resources available to them, So that's really also something that I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of. We are attending to make sure that all teachers are gaining skills around highly capable students. So Josh talked a little bit about a twice exceptional student, and he mentioned them having gifts and also having maybe an IEP. And so and actually Karen is like the queen of making the graphics. So I was talking to her about this graphic and then she whipped it out. But basically, this is a sample profile of an intensive HiCap student. And so this is a student who develops asynchronously. And you might expect like a typical second grade student is going to hover right around that dashed line because that's just human variation. They're going to have things that they're strong at and things that they're a little bit behind in, and that's normal. And an asynchronous second grader might look like where the blue bars are at. So these would be like our achievement data points from iReady, ELA, and math, showing that they're like, okay, maybe right on grade level, but then off the charts for math. The SEL data would come from Panorama, and then reasoning and problem solving would come from the Naglieri. So we can develop a profile of where are their strengths, where are there things that they need. And this is like who we're looking for when the multidisciplinary selection committee meets. Go ahead. I think it's you next. Okay.
Okay, wow, we've had a lot of information thrown at us tonight, haven't we? So I'm sure you have those questions. Again, you can put them in that form. We're going to put that QR code up at the end in case you have more. So we've just got a little bit more for you. Now that you've heard about our intensive HiCap support classroom, you've heard about how this is needs-based, you've heard about how 80% of our students do get what they need, 15% need some extra supports or extensions, and then only 5% really need the third tier, the very ends of our diagram. So how are you going to know if you receive a letter saying, yes, your child needs highly capable services, how are you going to know if they get into if they're recommended to be into the HiCap support classroom? So as we've talked about quite a bit, just want to remind you, all the data is being reviewed by the committee, the MDSC, or Multidisciplinary Selection Committee. And then we're going to make recommendations based on all of these pieces we've been talking about tonight. We really do look at the whole child, minus the name, so we don't know who these students are. We know their data, we know how they're doing in class, we know what they're doing, how they're doing with their social emotional skills, and then input also from teachers. So placement then is based on, or recommendation is based on by invitation. So based on that data, we would send you a letter saying, we recommend this service for your student. We feel like based on all the whole picture of your student, this is where they would really be supported the best for their success in school. And so the letter will tell you if it's going to be for the intensive HiCap support classroom or if it's going to be in their neighborhood school general education classroom. So when we look at the data, the law states that we can't exclude them from the highly capable services just because of one score. So again, that's why we look at multiple data points and multiple assessments. The letters are going to be sent home. I think it's already been mentioned that we're a little bit behind this year because of all the changes and trying to make a lot of adjustments as we go and roll things out as we can. So it's going to be early June, June 9th, right, is the date now? Yeah, June 9th is when we're expecting to be able to mail those out by. And just because your student is recommended for the intensive HiCap support classroom, it doesn't mean that's where your student has to go. Ultimately, you will get to make that decision. So if you wish, you can decline that service. Again, it will be at Truman Elementary School. So if you prefer that your child receive services in their neighborhood school, then you have that option. And all that information will be sent to you via mail, so you'll be able to make the decision. And of course, we're always going to be available for phone calls, emails, and whatever to answer those questions and help you out with that.
And let them know too that it's like not always if they opt out, it's just for now. If they re-screen.
Oh, so if they opt out, you're saying it's just for now. So maybe you say, no, we're going to opt out of services, but maybe then they're rescreened again in 5th grade, and then you say, well, now let's give it a try. Now we do want to opt into services. So it's not like a one and done, like you're out forever kind of a thing. So So talking about the timeline, we've talked about it a little bit already. This is this year, kind of the picture of what we've been doing right now. We've already pulled the data. We have already notified, I'm sure many of you have already received letters stating that your student is under review. And then we're starting to meet with a multidisciplinary committee right now. Decision letters will be mailed by June 9th, and then you'll have the opportunity for the appeals process if you do not agree with the decision. Because of our timeline, because the end of the year is going to be here before we know it, depending on the number of appeals, we may not get to them all in June before school is out. So it may be September this year when we are actually getting to some of the appeals. Just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And then looking at our timeline for next year for identification and placement, the universal screening would begin. So 5th grade will be in the fall, and again, 2nd grade will be in the spring, so they've had some time to get used to being in school and grow and adjust. Then parents will be notified, and then we'll begin the MDSC, Multidisciplinary Committee. It will begin in January for the 5th grade, because remember, we're screening in fall, and then it will be in April for 2nd grade. Okay, and then decision letters will be mailed for 5th grade in February, for 2nd grade in May. And then again, there will be the appeals process, and our plan is to be ahead of the game next year, and so we should have time to get those appeals done because we'll have May and June to work on those. Okay.
Thank you for your attention and for listening. I know your ears are probably tired and maybe your brain is swimming a little bit too. So we're going to conclude here in just a minute. Please join us out in the hallway. The 5 of us will be circling around. A lot of you know each other because the HiCap family is a family that you already have connections. So please, socialize, have a cookie, but keep it out there. Can't come in here. And then we'll all go home at 7:30. And so I'm looking forward to talking with you. Some of you I haven't seen in a while. I'm really excited to chat and connect with you. And then we're going to put the QR code back up. Here it is, in case you missed it, the bit.ly and the code. And then you can just keep shooting us those emails, and we'll answer them with that frequently asked questions sheet, like Christy said. And then if it's more individualized, you'll get a personal email back. Oh, and then don't forget, you can check the website tomorrow for this slide deck. And I'm not sure how long it will take to upload this recording of this meeting, but it will maybe be tomorrow or the next day. Tell your friends and family. All right, you guys, let's go have some cookies and water. Thank you for coming.